Welcome back to the channel. My name's Tom, and today I'm taking a look at Ocean County Mall in Toms River, New Jersey. Now, as always, let's take a look around and try to decide if this is a dead mall, a dying mall, or if it's doing just fine. By the 1970s, this once fairly rural area was starting to go through a rapid growth spurt, and it was decided that the area needed a major shopping center, and this mall is the result of that. The mall opened in July 1976 under the direction of the DeBartolo Corporation. It was a huge success from the start, and it led to, or at least contributed to, a commercial boom in this area. And it's my understanding that this mall remains largely successful to this day, even though it looks kind of empty right now, but that's probably because this was filmed on a Wednesday at around 11 a.m. And of course, don't forget, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell. I've got a lot more mall videos coming up. Thanks. Here's a map of the mall. Right now we're approximately in the center of that map, and next we're going to take a left, which will be going down on the map. This is what I would call the center court of the mall. It's not bad. It's somewhat impressive. The roof, to me, kind of reminds me of a flying saucer for some reason. I don't know if anybody else thinks it looks like that. But here's a picture of what I think this area looked like back in the 70s. And I have to say, I much prefer the way it looked in the 70s. Way more interesting. The original anchor stores here were Sears, Bamberger's, General Cinema, and Penney. Not surprisingly, Penney is the only remaining original anchor store, as it is at so many other malls. And we'll be getting to the Penney in just a second. The mall underwent an expansion in 1988, which added a fifth anchor store, Stearns, and we'll take a look at that part of the mall in just a few minutes as well. Around 1998, the original owners of the mall, the DeBartolo Corporation, were absorbed by Simon Property Group, and this mall became a Simon Mall, which it remains to this day. As I've mentioned in other mall videos, I'm generally not a fan of Simon malls, but that's mostly because they tend to be rather bland in my opinion. Simon seems to like to remove most of the color and uniqueness from the malls they buy, which leaves most of their malls feeling very similar to one another. However, from my experience, Simon does seem to generally keep their malls well maintained and up to date, with some exceptions, of course. So while Ocean County definitely isn't the most exciting or visually spectacular mall I've ever seen, it does seem to be doing fairly well under Simon's control. Now, the mall did have a bit of a slowdown in the early 2000s, as seems to have been the case at most malls. This was likely due to a brief recession at the time and the rise in online shopping, among other things. In an attempt to recover from this downturn, in 2003, Simon completed the mall's first major renovation since it opened in 1976. They, of course, changed the signs, which Simon seems to do at most of their malls. They added new seating areas, lighting, and replaced the floors. And because part of the renovation was funded by the Deborah Hart and Lung Center, as a way of encouraging mall walking, they added distance markers on the floor around the perimeter, which you can see in that brown stripe that goes around the entire mall. I'll take a look at one of those distance markers in just a minute. As far as I can tell, this 2003 renovation was a success, and the mall has been doing well ever since. I really wasn't able to find any articles that indicated that the mall was struggling in any way. The closest I could find were the articles about how the Sears closed in 2018, which of course had some negative impact, but the old Sears building was demolished in 2019, and Simon redeveloped the location where the Sears building had been by adding new businesses such as LA Fitness, Five Below, Ulta Beauty, and HomeSense in 2020. As a result, the mall and its related properties remain what some see as the economic center of Toms River. But of course, if you've been here before, or if this is your hometown mall especially, please let me know what you think about that in the comments. Here's the J.C. Penney, which I mentioned is the only remaining original anchor store at the mall. However, there may be other stores here that were here on opening day in 1976. If anybody knows what stores those are, or if they exist, please point them out. Am I the only one that gets kind of creeped out by those motion-activated kiddie rides? At least that one wasn't the type that laughs. The laughing ones are really creepy. I remember there was one of those laughing ones at the Monmouth Mall, which was especially creepy because that place was almost completely silent, except for that laughing kiddie ride. Here's one of those distance markers I was talking about. It says 4/8, so I don't know if that's 4/8 of a mile or what that is exactly. If anybody knows the numbering scheme of these distance markers, please let me know. That design up there looks very 1976. I would bet that's original to the mall. And now I think this is the section of the mall that was added in 1988. Straight ahead we have Boscovs, and that was the location of the fifth anchor store, Stearns. I think the Stearns closed in 2001, and then the Boscovs moved in shortly after that. And then this, of course, is the food court, which I guess was also added in '88. I normally say that how busy a food court is and how many of the restaurants are open is a good indication of how well a mall is doing. In this case, you can see all the restaurants are in business, at least they look to be. It's just, again, too early in the morning. It's only about 11 a.m., so I would guess that within an hour, that food court probably would have gotten pretty busy. Believe it or not, I have never been inside a Boscovs. I live in Connecticut, and I think there's only two in Connecticut, and neither of them are very close to me. One of them is in driving distance, though, so I may do a walkthrough of that Boscovs at some point in the next few months or so. So if anybody wants to see that, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. As I mentioned in some of my other videos, I no longer get candy out of candy machines because I think possibly I might have gotten sick as a result of it. Maybe not, but it's very possible. So this video was filmed in February, and this was the last set of videos I think I did where I got any candy out of the machines. Because shortly after I got home from this trip, within like 2-3 days, I got really sick. And I stayed sick for about 3 weeks. And the only thing I could think of that could have caused it might have been touching all those candy machines and then putting my hands in my mouth with the candy. Again, that might not have been what caused it, but it's a good chance it might have. So after the February trip, I never got candy out of a machine again. This is called Go Playland. I don't think I've ever seen one of these before. Looks kind of neat, though. Straight ahead, this is where the original anchor store Bamberger's was located. It became a Macy's in 1986. And fun fact, all Bamberger stores were converted to Macy's in 1986. I'm happy to say that this mall does have an arcade. This one's called Sunstar, and I don't think I've ever seen a Sunstar arcade before, so this is a new one for me. Sadly, it is one of those arcades that doesn't use quarters or tokens. It uses the credit card type things, which I don't like, because I'd like to come in and just play a game or two, but it becomes a little bit more difficult when you have to put money on one of those cards. So I didn't play any games here, but I did take a look around. And I would say it's nice. It's not a bad arcade at all. But not surprisingly, there's nobody in here. Of course, there's nobody else really in the mall at all because it's so early. But as you see in most of my mall videos, there's almost never anybody in any of these arcades. It's very uncommon. You see that game a lot at these arcades. The Walking Dead game and the Halo game is pretty much everywhere. Connect 4 basketball. That's a new one, I think. Some good old-fashioned skee ball. You can't go wrong there. Old football. I'm not a fan of the claw machines, though. As I've said before, I kind of like actual arcade machines in arcades. But that's just me. I'm a fan of VR. I have a VR headset at home, but I would never play a VR game at a mall. Because just imagine how many people have put that on their head, touching their face and eyes. That's just disgusting. I'd have to wipe it down with alcohol swabs or something before using it. Looks like I spoke too soon about that Laughing Kitty ride. That thing is creepy. Coming up on the left here is approximately where the mall's movie theater General Cinemas used to be. It became Cinemagic Theaters in 1988, and then it finally closed in 2002, partially due to competition with Seacourt Pavilion's AMC Theater, which was much bigger, I believe. It remained vacant until 2007, when it was replaced with Ichiban. Here's more remains of that 1976 styling, which I love. That is just amazing. That is so 1970s. Love it. And let's actually take a quick walk outside. We're not leaving the mall yet. We're just going to take a walk out here and look at this entrance here, which also seems to be largely unchanged since 1976. This is something that I've seen in other Simon malls, specifically Philadelphia Mills or Franklin Mills, where Simon refurbished the entrances on the front of the building, but they left the ones in the back pretty much unchanged, which I have to assume is to save money.
With dreads, right?
So now at the end of the hallway here where this exit is to the parking lot, this is roughly where Sears used to be up until it was demolished in 2019. Once we go outside in the distance across the parking lot, you'll see the LA Fitness, HomeSense, Ulta Beauty, and Five Below, which were added in 2020. The parking lot in between this exit and the stores over there is where Sears used to be. Here's a photo of what this area looked like back in about 2013 when Sears was still here. And then here's a picture from about 2019 when Sears had been demolished and they were working on the new stores. And here's what it looks like today. This mall map is kind of unusual because it doesn't show the entire mall. It just shows those new stores that were added in 2020 and then this small part of the mall here. Luckily or unluckily, this change machine was working. So I was able to get some candy. This time I decided to get one of my favorites, Mike and Ike's. But apparently it's not everybody's favorite because this was probably the most stale candy I've ever had from a vending machine. And you can see the machine is almost empty, so it's probably been in there for years. Jeez. Oh wow, very stale. They're hard as a rock. Not supposed to be. Tastes good though. So now that you've all seen the mall, what do you think of it? I would normally at this point ask, do you think it's a dead mall, dying mall, or doing just fine? But just because it's so early in the morning, I don't think you can really make that call based on what you've seen so far. But other than the number of people here, what are your opinions on the mall? Again, I think it's doing pretty well just based on what I've read, and it seems well maintained. It's kind of boring as a Simon Mall, but what can you do? But again, let me know what you think in the comments, and before anybody goes anywhere, let's take a drive around the mall and see what it looks like from the outside. To the left there is where Sears used to be, and then I think the P.F. Chang's was probably added around 2020 when they redid that end of the mall, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Here's the Macy's, which was Bamberger's up until 1986. I've been considering doing a walkthrough of a Macy's, so if that's something anybody wants to see, definitely let me know. I've also been considering doing walkthroughs of other stores like maybe Nordstrom's, Primark, and if anybody's got any other suggestions, please let me know. And here's the J.C. Penney, which I mentioned has been here since 1976. And can anybody tell me, is that the way it looked originally in 1976? It kind of looks to me like it might have had a facelift at some point. And here's the Boscovs, which I mentioned was Stearns up until about 2001. And once again, I just love this entrance here, which I am pretty sure has to be from 1976. And believe it or not, right now we are driving through the old Sears. This is where the Sears was up until about 2019. And there you have it. That is Ocean County Mall in Toms River, New Jersey. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell. I've got a lot more mall videos coming up, as well as store walkthroughs and, of course, flea markets. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.